All right, let's jump right into this explainer of the 1% mindset, the architect of wealth. We're going to start by confronting a really harsh truth right out of the gate. The absolute biggest financial mistake you will ever make, well, it probably won't feel like a mistake at all when you're making it. In fact, it's going to feel incredibly responsible. It's going to feel safe, and honestly, it'll feel smart. But as we unpack these concepts together today, you're going to see that this feeling of safety is basically just an illusion. And it's the exact illusion that keeps people totally stuck. Which naturally forces us to ask a really fundamental question. Which game are you actually playing here? Because according to the source material, here's the reality of wealth building. Most people do not lose this game because they're lazy. No way. They lose because they never figure out which game they're actually participating in. It's the sheer lack of awareness of their own choices. You can have two people with the exact same smartphone, the exact same internet connection, and the exact same 24 hours in a day, but the completely different games they're playing will dictate entirely different futures.
Opportunity rarely feels obvious while it's still an opportunity. Take David, for example. Back in 2009, he was a 24-year-old engineer sitting in a tiny apartment with just a mattress on the floor. And he was handed the ultimate golden safe choice. A stable government job, a solid salary, the full pension, the whole shebang. It was exactly what his parents wanted. His mom even started leaving newspaper clippings of job openings on his bed. But he turned it down to build a completely unproven online store. So I want you to honestly ask yourself right now, would you have taken that safe offer? Or would you have built the store?
The really crucial point here is that David wasn't some once-in-a-generation genius, and he definitely wasn't luckier than his peers. He simply operated on one powerful question. What is everyone missing? He spent 18 grueling months building something literally nobody thought would work, and eventually he saw massive success. Just 5 years later, those exact same relatives who begged him to get a quote-unquote real job were sitting across from him asking for his financial advice. He found an opportunity before it was obvious, simply because he kept asking that one specific question. And this brilliantly illustrates what we call the rowboat trap. Picture someone rowing a boat as hard as humanly possible. Their arms are burning, they are putting in maximum effort, right? But they're rowing against a massive rushing current. The harder they pull, the further back they drift. Working 60-hour weeks at a job that quietly drains you just to afford a lifestyle you didn't really even choose, that is exactly like being in that rowboat. Being incredibly busy does not mean you are actually moving forward. Actually, let me rephrase that a bit. Hard work doesn't just magically create success. It multiplies whichever direction you are already pointed in. We really have to wake up and realize that buying the fancy car, the expensive watch, or chasing that prestigious job title isn't actually about transportation or ambition for most folks. It's just purchasing proof of status. Why? Because status feels a whole lot safer than uncertainty. You buy these things to hold them up to a room as proof that you aren't falling behind. But let's be real, spending your hard-earned money on proof instead of actual progress is a tragic, guaranteed way to make sure you fall behind in the long run. And that mindset issue, it translates directly into a money issue, specifically through what we call opportunity cost. This is the massive hidden expense that quietly drains people who don't have a solid wealth system. You're never going to see this expense on a store receipt. It is simply what your money and your time could have been doing instead of what you chose to do with them. If you buy a liability, it takes money out of your pocket every single month. An asset puts money back in. That missed asset, that is your opportunity cost. Which brings us to the rule of 72. This is a fantastic mathematical shortcut. Basically, by applying this rule, dividing 72 by an 8% average market return, we can see that your money doubles roughly every 9 years. If you do that just 3 times over a career, a modest starting amount turns into something completely unrecognizable. This isn't luck, guys. It shows exactly how assets quietly compound in the background while you aren't even looking, doing all of the heavy lifting for you. But here's the catch. Patience is the secret ingredient to making that math work. I want you to pause for a second and mentally look around at everything you currently own. Just really think about it. How much of it is actually acting as a patient asset that puts money back into your pocket every single month? And how much of it is a liability just sucking money out? The market absolutely does not care about the initial excitement of a purchase. It rewards the quiet, boring patience of holding on to things that generate real value over time. To see the real-world difference between having a wealth system and flying blind, let's compare 2 different paths. First, we have Maria. She spent 6 exhausting years climbing the corporate ladder, gaining plenty of status, but feeling inexplicably tired all the time. Then we have Tomas. He's a dropout who completely skipped the ladder altogether. Instead, he acquired a struggling, super unglamorous supplier business for less than a single year of Maria's salary. By fixing just one boring thing, how slowly the business collected payments, he turned it around for massive cash flow. He built a system. She just built a resume. Now, the secret to Thomas's success wasn't magic. It really came down to 3 specific wealth filters. First, you notice something the crowd is completely ignoring. Second, you test that instinct against logic and hard evidence, not just your initial excitement. And third, you commit long enough for the results to actually surface. These 3 steps act as a mechanical framework. They separate a truly bold, correct instinct from someone who is just, well, confidently wrong about a terrible idea. And when we look at the typical timeline of startup survival, it becomes super clear why that third step, commitment, is where almost everyone fails. It typically takes 2 to 3 years just to become consistently profitable. Even among the businesses that actually make it, the struggle in year 2 is intense. Most fail not because the idea was inherently bad, but simply because people quit at step 3. They throw in the towel exactly 1 season before the roots finally catch up to all the effort they've been putting in. But beyond just commitment, the actual structure of your wealth matters immensely. Researcher Tom Corley studied self-made millionaires and found something fascinating. Roughly 2/3 of them built 3 or more distinct income streams before ever hitting their first million. The takeaway here is incredibly clear. Nobody who gets rich relies on just one single paycheck while getting there. It is all about diversifying your roots and letting multiple assets compound and grow for you simultaneously. Ultimately, the crucial difference comes down to this. Average people are constantly searching for the safe bet, the guaranteed salary, the certain outcome. But the wealthy, they understand that real growth begins exactly where certainty ends. Managing uncertainty isn't about taking wild, reckless risks. It simply means accepting that uncertainty is the required entry fee for absolutely anything in life worth having. If you want extraordinary results, you have got to get comfortable navigating the unknown. Think about a tree that no one waters twice. If you plant a seed, 3 months later, it looks like absolutely nothing above the ground. If you judged it right then, you'd swear the thing was dead. But underground, its roots are doing all the vital work. Your daily habits are exactly the same. They are quietly building a future underground. Imagine waking up 10 years from now and realizing the biggest thing you invested your time into was a routine you aren't actually proud of. So how does this all fit into the big picture? Well, while most choices you make barely move the needle of your life, occasionally one single decision completely reroutes everything that follows. It might be putting your head down to learn a tough, high-income skill 2 years before anyone else does, or buying a vital asset while the crowd is still sitting on the sidelines waiting to see. Your habits get you through the week, for sure, but those rare, heavy decisions, those are the ones that dictate your entire decade. But before you keep aggressively climbing whatever ladder you happen to be on right now, you really need to sit in silence and ask yourself a tough question. Is the mountain you're currently climbing one you actually chose for yourself? Or is it just a mountain you inherited from your parents, your group chat, or your social media timeline? Because listen, money only ever buys convenience. It never buys purpose. It will only ever reveal who you already were underneath it all. I'm going to leave you with a final, provocative thought. And this isn't just some productivity hack. This is a profound life question. 5 years from today, you are going to be one of 2 people. One who wishes they had started earlier, or one who smiles quietly to themselves because they did. Years from now, you probably won't remember this explainer, but the specific decision you make today regarding your assets and your time, that is going to write your entire future. So, what is that one decision going to be?